Hello everyone. Welcome sir to UVCE Chronicles. This is an initiative of UVCE Graduates Association. UVCE Chronicles, we interview alumni and we do podcasts of them. So we heartily welcome you to this show. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for organizing this. I really appreciate it. I'm actually very excited with the fact that UVC Graduate Association and UVC Alumni Association, all of that are working together to bring the glory back for UVC.
Yeah. So always we begin with a quick introduction of the speaker by themselves. So can you give our audience tell them who you are?
Yes, so my name is BV Jagadeesh, and I am a 1978 electrical engineering graduate from UVC. And I actually come from a small village called Bagalur, which is about 30-40 kilometers from the city. And I studied in the village till the 7th grade. And 8th onwards is when I came to Bangalore. And I got my engineering degree. Prior to that, I studied in National College, both Jainagar for my pre-university and then National College Basungudi, where I did my Bachelor of Science. And then I came to engineering and I graduated in 78 and I went to Bombay after that to do my master's. And I worked in Bombay for about 2 years and I got an opportunity to go directly to Silicon Valley in 1982. And I always had the dream to start my own company, especially after I went to Bombay when I was doing an internship in a company called Bombay Electronics is when my dream really started to build my own company. And finally, by the end of 1993 is when I met a great partner called KB Chandrasekhar, and both of us started our first company called Exodus Communications, where we were the first ones to pioneer the whole concept of internet data centers, where this is the time when internet was explosively growing and somebody had to provide the complete backend infrastructure. And that's what we understood very well. And that's what made us to bring out this internet data center concept. And at one time, we had almost like 40 to 45% of the world's internet content going through the internet data centers. In fact, Bill Clinton, who was the president of United States at that time, he made Exodus Communication as a national asset because of the entire internet community using our data centers as the backend infrastructure. We were a very, very crucial infrastructure company, and we got nominated as the national asset by President Bill Clinton. And then I left Exodus because it was growing to be too big. And I like young companies, I like startup companies. I had invested in a company called Netscaler, which was essentially going to solve the problem for scaling of the internet. And I became the CEO of that company in 2000. And so we had a good ride on that. And that company got acquired by Citrix in 2005. And I stayed with Citrix for a bunch of years. And so for the last 10 years or so, I've been mainly focused on helping the next generation entrepreneurs and investing in those entrepreneurs. So interestingly enough, Citrix, which acquired Netscaler, today is almost like $1 billion in revenue. And they have over 3,000, 4,000 employees worldwide, including even in Bangalore as well.
Wow. So that was Exodus and Netscalers.
Correct.
What made you, how did you come up with this disruptive technology idea of data centers?
So when we started the concept to start our own company, we knew at that time, right, this internet was growing. And we started off by actually offering complete internet solutions to bring customers on board, to help them to get on the internet and then have their whole email and all those things, because these were all at the very preliminary stages. See, today, it's all plug and play, but back then it was not. It was fairly complex stuff. It was very technically complex. and we put together part of it from solutions that already exist in the market. We integrated, and then we put together our own management solutions, integrated that, and offered that to our customers. The key decision that differentiated us with others is the fact that we only focused on offering these internet solutions only to businesses rather than to consumers.
Okay.
Because everyone else who was doing sort of similar things, they were more focused on the consumer rather than on the business. We said, look, we understand business because of our background, because of working with enterprises. We understand business, so let's just stick to the business and go and offer these solutions to the businesses. And that's what actually helped. And like anything else, right? In fact, in most cases, when people start a company, that's not the final idea that is going to take off, right? This idea that you start off, you get some momentum, you get some customer base, and constantly you are listening to the customers as well, and start seeing the need and start seeing where the trend is heading towards. And it so happened at that time that in 1995, in Silicon Valley, there was no fiber underground,
Okay.
right? So there used to be these two wires that used to come to
Okay.
each company, and then the local phone company used to give the internet connection using these two wires.
Okay. Okay.
And interestingly enough, right, nobody had anticipated internet to grow at such a exponential pace. So they started to run out of copper, and they started to run out of people who would physically go and do all these physical connections that has to go to the central office. And we used to get ton of orders, but in order to fulfill those orders, it used to take almost like 6 to 8 months because we were relying on the local phone company,
Okay.
which was out of copper capacity and people capacity, right? Even after I placed the order with the local phone company, it used to take 6 months before I can turn up the customer. So this is when the light went off for us.
Okay.
So we went back to the customer and said, Mr. Customer, why do you need the internet connection? So he said, oh, I want to have email and I want to have my website, right, up and running. So that was like the craze at that time. Every company wanted to put their own website.
.com.
Yeah, during the dot-com
Yeah,
era,
yeah.
right? Every company wanted to put their own internet website. So we said, look, we can solve this problem for you because this is an industry-wide problem, right? If you want an internet, you cannot get it. It's not my problem. It is because the phone company, which has to draw the wires,
Yeah.
they're out of capacity.
Yeah.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we bring your server, the mail server, the web server, all of those things, instead of putting it at your site, you deploy that in our site. So now you are up and running tomorrow.
Yeah.
I can have you up and running your website and your email server in less than 24 hours because I'm already connected to the internet, right? Because I'm connected to the backbone.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a major internet services company. So they said, yeah, sure, I think that seems like a great idea. And we said, why don't you pay us some money right now? And once the connection comes, then, if you want, you can move the servers back to your facility. So that's when the flood started to happen, right? Every customer wanted to give the server to us, and we were turning up those servers and have these servers up and running with all these configuration for email and web servers and management and all of those things, which is what we were actually doing. So even before we realized, we had almost like 400, 500 such servers. And so two things happened at that time. One is we were able to raise the money, and we decided, since we have these 500 servers, we decided let's use this money and go and build a state-of-the-art data center, which none of the internet companies actually had.
Wow.
Right? And that means when customers actually came and saw, said, wow, my server is sitting here, right? That was the wow factor that got created. The second thing was once the customer actually got the internet connection, customer said, you know what? This is actually running pretty well. The server sitting with you is actually running pretty well. You guys are managing very well. Let's keep the server there itself. And you just give me the internet connection so that I can play around with it.
Okay.
Right? So everything else, they left it to us. So they did not want to take back. So they paid for the internet connection and they also paid for the server that is sitting in our. So we moved all these servers into the data center. And when these customers came and looked at the data center, they said, wow, this is pretty amazing. And that's around the same time the dot-com boom started to happen. And we were the only company that actually offered a real state-of-the-art internet connection, where internet services, where we had all these random complete power, right, 24/7 power. And we had multiple fiber carriers coming into our data centers. And we had the complete management that we had developed within our own company as well. So there is a lot of things that we did, which became a total solution. And everybody wanted that state-of-the-art solution, because when e-commerce started to take off, like for example, eBay, which is today, multi-billion-dollar business, it started with us with a single server. eBay started with a single server. Hotmail started with us with 8 servers, okay, which today, has billions of users, right? Google started with us, which was much, much later. So prior to Google, there were like 5 other search engine companies, and they were all our customers. And when Google became a customer, they were actually the tiniest of the many customers that we had.
When was this?
This is in 99.
Okay.
99, 2000 is when one of the core investors at Google, his name is Andy Bechtolsheim. Andy was the founder of Sun Microsystems, if you have heard of. So Andy and I, we had met somewhere, and we were actually on a panel. And then the next day, Andy calls me up and said, hey, I want to give you a lead. And that's how he gave the lead of Google to us, because he was an early investor in Google.
And you have been living in the Silicon Valley for over 40 years.
41 years now.
41 years, wow. From 1982 to...
Before most of you were even born.
Yeah. What is it that makes Silicon Valley successful? Because they call Bangalore as Silicon Valley of India, but what is it, the real Silicon Valley? How does it work?
That's a very, very interesting question. The real Silicon Valley, it has happened because, especially for me, right, I have seen the evolution of Silicon Valley since the early 80s, which is when it was just starting to happen. In fact, Silicon Valley was not the leader at that time. It was Boston. Boston had the maximum number of tech companies, computer companies, and all of that. And Silicon Valley was just beginning to happen. So the first generation of the companies that started in Silicon Valley were essentially silicon companies, which is the semiconductor companies, right? So there was this very early company called Fairchild. And from Fairchild is where the spin-off happened. So there are 3 major semiconductor companies that came out.
They were into transistors.
They were into transistors, and Fairchild was into transistors. And then came the integrated circuits, right? So that is when 3 different companies came off. One is Intel, which came up with the microprocessor. And even before microprocessor, they actually had memory. And then the other one was AMD. And the third one was National Semiconductor. So these are the 3 companies that basically came from Fairchild, which is the fatherly sort of a company. And then came the computer companies. And that came because of Hewlett-Packard. So Hewlett-Packard, which basically, they both came out of Stanford University, which is very close by. And they started a company that kept doing this instruments, electronic instruments like medical instruments, electronic like testing of integrated circuits, right? Oscilloscopes, those kind of equipments. And and when the microprocessor came, right, everybody started to look at, okay, I have to make computers. So East Coast was what was known for making computers. Digital Equipment Corporation was the pioneer in mini computers out of Boston. IBM and UNIVAC, Prime Computers, right? All of these were mainframe computers that were primarily based out of East Coast. So when Silicon Valley entered into the computer era, right? I mean, that is when I was fortunate to actually get a job with this company called Elixir. So you must have heard of Tata Elixir over here. So through Tata Elixir, I went to this Elixir in Silicon Valley. So they were one of the very early companies to build super mini computers, primarily solving scientific applications. And around the same time frame, because of the success of Intel, because of the success of National Semiconductor, AMD, and all these companies which had gone public, so some of the very early investors who had put money in these companies, right, they actually saw their money multiply 100 folds because these companies did extremely well. Now you have a lot more money that you can turn around and invest. And here are these two world-class universities that are in the heart of Silicon Valley. One is UC Berkeley, the other one is Stanford University, right? Which is pumping brilliant engineers. And that combination with this venture capitalist who could take the risk of investing in these bright engineers and entrepreneurs was the first culmination of how Silicon Valley started to form. Now, you may ask, first of all, where do these semiconductor companies they are at this point of time, right? Where do these computer companies are at this point of time? And what kept the valley going, right? So the answer to that is many of the Silicon Valley semiconductor companies are still at the leading edge. So, for example, Intel is still the dominant force when it comes to the server processor. As an alternative to that, AMD makes a second sourcing of Intel systems. But as complexity in this world actually started to change, then came this company called NVIDIA, which is the first $1 trillion market cap company today in semiconductor business. So they came up with this whole notion of graphical processing units. So they basically felt that how microprocessors are general purpose computers, they felt in order to solve mathematical equations, scientific issues, scientific problems, and things like that, you need a graphic processor or a math processor, right, that can parallelly compile uh, high intensity graphics and mathematics. So they came up with this GPU, and over a period of time, they evolved from this graphical processing unit, which first they applied to gaming industry, and then they turned into like applying this into automobiles and all of that, right? That required a lot of computing real time. And then came the artificial intelligence now, especially the latest one, what we call as the Gen AI, generative AI. So they are the only ones who have the underlying technology that can do parallel processing, almost like think of a matrix, right? So you do the whole processing of matrix when you are doing this Gen AI. And so they are a dominant force in semiconductors, so, which means the whole um, era of the semiconductor, still Silicon Valley remains to be the dominant force. Then comes the computer industry. So computer, Hewlett Packard continues to make the servers, HP, right? They continue to be one of the dominant players. And of course, there's Dell, which is based out of Austin. But HP continues to be a leading force in the servers. And of course, IBM is also there, but IBM is not in the data center servers. So they're mostly in the mainframe systems, which is, the market size for mainframe is actually coming down. But then started this whole applications and the infrastructure applications. So, for example, if you look at Oracle database, right?
Yeah.
Oracle is the pioneer in the databases,
Yeah.
and they continue to be the most dominant player in the databases. Database. There is no competition at all for them, right? And database is like the absolute underlying infrastructure software, right? To be able to access your data like this.
Yeah.
And then came, after that came this whole internet era. So if you look at the internet era, right, search engine is something that we cannot even live without.
Yeah.
So there you have the Google, and Google is in the heart of Silicon Valley. And then you look at e-commerce businesses and all of those things. Many of them are all centered out of Silicon Valley. Of course, Amazon is based out of Seattle, which is not very far from us, and Microsoft, which is in the operating system business, that is also in Seattle. So Seattle and Silicon Valley are sort of like twin cities, right? Even though they're not next to each other, but there is a lot of collaboration that happens between both the cities and the companies between Silicon Valley and that one. So now, in the last 20 years, 15, 20 years, there is a lot of pharmaceutical companies that innovate a lot of these drugs that are required for our own health related things. Right? There is Genentech, there is Chiron, there is a whole bunch of these world leaders, all based out of there. So you have so many industries, right? All technology centric. At the end of the day, the bottom line is they're all technology centric. But there are so many industries. You have semiconductor industry, you have computer industry, you have database industry, you have applications industry, you have biotech industry, right? And then, this AI and all of these things, which sort of works with all of these technologies. That is the heart of this. So, underlying thing, if you think of it, if somebody wants to recreate that in any other city, is how do you continuously keep innovating? And that comes with people. At the end of the day, people are the ones who contribute to this innovation. So you have to have the best of the minds, and you have to have the best of the minds, not just from one country, but best of the minds coming from all over the world, coming into one place, and everybody is there for one reason, because they think there is a great opportunity and they have the brain power to contribute to this.
Yeah.
And there are venture capitalists who are willing to take the risk of putting money in these companies. And this whole combination of the best brain power and the opportunities that exist
And the money.
and the money
Yeah.
to take the risk, right? And there are fantastic failures, right? There are fantastic failures. So you look at, for example, uh, Theranos. Theranos, where the founder was trying to solve the problem of taking few blood drops and figuring out the entire body characteristics using the uh, two or three blood drops. But it didn't succeed. The company didn't succeed, right? Billions of dollars that was raised just went under. But today, these venture capitalists have the stomach to digest these kind of losses, because they can create one Google, one Facebook, or one Amazon, or one uh, OpenAI, right? Of these kind of companies, and that will return all their investments.
Venture capitalist. This is a really nice one. Most of us are not sure what it is. Can you tell us like how venture capital works?
So essentially, you must have heard of, if you haven't, there is this terminology called OPM. OPM means other people's money.
Okay.
So the interesting part, right, is because of my own learning, I figured this out that if I'm an employee, I put some money aside for my retirement. And that money goes into mutual funds. Money goes into some sort of
Yeah.
funds where this money can potentially grow.
Yeah.
So that is billions of dollars, right? That money is billions of dollars. Now, I am now trusting a fund manager to take the money that I'm giving and have that fund manager to multiply that money so that the fund manager, he or she, makes the right judgment to invest in the right companies, right assets, so that over a period of time, the money that I have put in actually
Gross.
grows.
Yeah.
So, what these mutual funds and institutions that have all these billions of dollars, what they do is they carve out a small piece of that money, a small piece, maybe 0.5%, 1%, or something like that. So, think of it. If I'm $100 billion fund, right, 1% of that is $1 billion.
Yes.
And if I can spray that money across 10 VCs, that's like $10 million I'm giving to each of these VCs. So that means 10 VCs, right? $10 million, and these guys will raise $500 million. So from 50 such funds. So now my $10 million potentially can return 5 to 10x if I bet on the right venture capitalist. So I bet on the fund manager, and the fund manager is betting on the
Company.
venture capitalist.
Okay.
The venture capitalist is also a fund manager, excepting the focus of the venture capitalist is to invest in startup companies. Entrepreneurs like you and me,
Yeah.
that's what they do.
Yeah.
So they pick the right and the best entrepreneurs to come and put their money into your company.
Okay. Okay.
You see what I mean? You see the cycle, how it works? So now, your job as an entrepreneur is to grow that money. And how do you grow? Because you have an idea, you know how to solve a problem, like how we did Exodus Communications or NetScaler. It all started with an idea, right? There was nothing more to it.
Yeah.
It all started with a PowerPoint presentation, an idea, but it's the entrepreneurs who then take that idea and then methodically go and turn that into the next Google of the world, the next Oracle of the world, or next Nvidia of the world, right? All of these companies all started with one or two or three entrepreneurs. So the cycle is you as an employee of a company, you take some of your money and invest in your retirement funds into mutual funds. And these mutual funds, they take part of that money and then give it to a venture capitalist. And the venture capitalist takes that money, part of that money, they give it to a smart entrepreneur who helps to grow that into a company, which then will give a return, either in the form of an exit, like an IPO, or an acquisition.
Okay.
So this is how the cycle works. So when the cycle works properly, then the typical ratio of success versus failures, because this is a very risky investment, right? And it's all built into the plan. So as a venture capitalist, if I'm investing in 20 companies, I don't expect all 20 of them to return. Okay.
Okay.
I expect maybe two of them to give me blockbusters. So a blockbuster is I put $1 and I'll get more than 10x on the dollar. Okay, so maybe two of them. And maybe another 5 to 7 of them, I will get somewhere around 3 to 8x return. Right? Meaning I put $1, I might get a $3 out of it, or I might get up to $8, right? Okay. So that's another 5 to 7 companies. And another 3, 4 companies, I'll get my money back. Mm-hmm. And the remaining 7 to 10 companies will go under. If I can smartly execute like this, that means I'm taking the risk. Yeah. Right? I cannot be very conservative. Yeah. Yeah. I have to bet on the entrepreneur. I have to bet on an idea. I have to bet on a market. Yeah. And when I do that, then if it succeeds in this ratio of success and failures that I'm talking about, then that mutual fund company that invested in a venture capitalist, if they put $10 million in 7 to 10 years, they will easily get back like $50 to $60 million.
Wow. And you're a really nice venture capitalist. You're running KAAJ Ventures, Falcon X Incubator. What do you look when you're investing in companies? What are the highlights you're looking for?
See, the number one bet you make is on the entrepreneur, right? So you look in the eyes of the entrepreneur and try to figure out whether this is an entrepreneur that I want to partner with for the next 6 years or 8 years, right? Because this is a long journey between a venture capitalist and an entrepreneur is a very long journey. So I have to gel with the entrepreneur and the entrepreneur has to gel with me, right? Because if I'm the guy who's writing the first check, so that is the number one criteria. Whether this guy has the ability to digest ups and downs, whether this guy has the ability to navigate, right, during difficult times, right? How this person will be a leader to lead a company. So there are so many parameters that we do during the 8 or 10 meetings that we go through. The second is the idea, the problem you are solving, and how big of a problem it is. We know this idea may change, but we want you to start with an idea. And because that, what we are looking at is, have you thought through all the different aspects of it? But because of market conditions, because of some adversities that happens in the world, because of, like what happened in 9/11, right? Yeah. Things could change, which is out of your control. There's nothing you can do about it. But when such things happen, how do you navigate? See, for example, when we did the Netscaler, Netscaler was built at the time, was conceived, the idea was conceived at the time the internet was growing. Right? Yeah. This is you have the dot-com boom. Yeah. Internet is growing at an exponential pace. And we had a technology where we could reduce the number of servers. Instead of 100 servers that you needed today with a Netscaler sitting in the front, you only need like 20 servers. Right? That's a very disruptive technology. Yeah. But in 2001, after the 9/11, the whole market just crashed. So companies that were experiencing millions and millions of people accessing these websites and doing billions of transactions, everything just crashed. Yeah. So here I am giving a value proposition to the customer that, Mr. Customer, I can reduce your 100 servers to 20 servers. Buy my product. So the customer says, Mr. Jagadeesh, Netscaler, look at how many servers I have. I already have bought thousands of servers. Nobody is using it. What's the point in saving? Yeah, yeah. So that is where a venture capitalist looks up to the entrepreneur to see how well the entrepreneur can navigate. So what we did was, we still had some more money left, right? So number one, we decided to trim the company from almost 100 people. We brought it down to 41, 42 people, right? So that reduced the expenses immediately. The number two things we did was we went back to the drawing board and we figured out what is it that we can do that the customer wants. So we came up with three different options, which we went and presented to the investors and the board of directors. Option number one is we told the board that, look, we have so much money left. We can shut the company. You take the money back. So you will basically get like 25 cents on a dollar.
Okay.
And let's just shut the company down. Option number two is we'll completely trim the company down. It's as if like you're restarting. And here is a brand new idea, which would leverage a little bit of this technology, brand new idea, and we go build the product in the next 2 years, right? The third idea is for the existing product, we're going to add these important components.
Okay.
Based on our customer research, customers want this, but we need about 9 months' time to build this product.
Okay. Okay.
And we believe this product would be needed in the market because we have done some market research. So the investors board looked at us and said, you know what? We bet on you to build this product, the first product, and you guys built the product, right? We don't want the money back. And we don't want you to completely reset and restart the company. Go and execute on this. If it does well, fine. If it doesn't well, also fine. Let's just go for it. So that was the direction. But it comes to the entrepreneurs as to how well they thought about all these things and how well we gave the options to the board, right? If we had just gone and said, this is the only option, that shows your lack of thinking, lack of maturity, right?
Yeah.
So we gave all three options and we sort of made the recommendation that our recommendation is to go with number 3. And they thought through and they came and said yes, because we had done all the study, market research on this. So this is what an entrepreneur plays a key role, and this is where the venture capitalist is betting on the entrepreneur.
So that's the highlight of what you're looking for. Any entrepreneur is looking for.
So that's why, as an entrepreneur, it's a very important function, and how you build the trust with the venture capitalist, how you build the relationship with the venture capitalist, how you build relationship with customers, right? All of these things, and what kind of a value that you're going to build in the company, right? We talked about transparency. Up to a certain stage, we used to, every 2 weeks, run an all-hands meeting.
Okay.
And pretty much every information we used to share with the employees. Which customers have we won, right? What is the problem we are solving for this customer? Why did this customer buy from us? Every information, whatever we can, share it with the employees so that everyone feels they are part of this institution. So that is how the leadership is demonstrated.
Wow. And sir, you're 67 years old now, and you're coming back to India quite often. And have you started investing in India?
I've been investing for almost 15 years now.
Oh, wow.
We built the single largest data center company in the US, in India, called NetMagic, which is the number 1 data center company in this country right now. And I seed funded that company. And I also was the chairman of that company as well.
Okay.
And the phenomenal entrepreneur from Bombay called Sharat Sanghi. He did an incredible job. All of these characteristics that I just described is all what he went through, right? Is what he demonstrated. And 2013, the company got acquired by NTT, and NTT continued to invest. And today, they have hundreds of millions of square foot of internet data center space in India, and any internet company that you can think of, it's all based out of NetMagic.
NetMagic. Wow. I've heard of NetMagic.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I have
It's funded by
three or four
UVC.
other companies, and I also have put some money into two or three venture capitalists as well, who are investing in seed funding and seed investments. And I go and work with these venture capitalists and the companies that they have funded. So periodically, I meet with these entrepreneurs. Whatever help that I can do, I continue to do that in India.
And you're very much into philanthropic work as well. That's right. And UVCE Foundation is one of your initiatives. Yes. Can you tell us more about how it began and where it is going? What is its future now?
Yeah, so, looking at my own background, I pretty much got my entire education at almost zero cost, right? Because up to seventh grade, I went to government schools, which is all free. And then I came here where the fees was all very, very tiny. Then I came to UVC where I had some scholarships, and whatever tiny fees that we had to pay, even that was covered as well. And then outside institutions also used to give, which used to help me in buying books and pay for exam fees and all of those things. So if I look at myself, right, first of all, I'm very fortunate that I had parents, even though they were in the village, lot of hardship because the village where we come from, there are no rivers. So the whole economy or your income is dependent on rainwater.
Yeah.
And you know how erratic the rainwater is. So when your whole life is dependent on erratic income, your life becomes very, very hard, very unpredictable.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the kind of environment that we went through. But fortunately, no matter what, they continue to push us to get the education, which is the single most thing that helped to change the path compared to me and lots of other people that I know of. The single most thing that helped was this education, right? And if we could offer that to other children who have the same potential, I'm not expecting everyone to become an entrepreneur. I'm not expecting everyone to go and create a Microsoft or Google or any. But maybe there is one person.
Yeah.
But the remaining, right? What we have seen when we gave this scholarship program, and as we were interviewing the students, is that when they graduate out of UVC, when they get their first job, almost 100% of the time, the salary that they get from the first job is probably 100x more than what their parents were making.
Yeah.
100x more, right? Because typically we used to focus mostly on economically backward, underprivileged. I mean, like my own background kind of a thing, right? And I can see that these children, as we ask them the question, what would you do after your engineering? Almost 100% of them basically said, I'll go help my family. I'll go first thing, right? They'll get some decent clothes or take them out on a trip, something that they have never done in their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what this means, right, is that when you help a student and the student gets this job, and that means you have pulled one family out of poverty cycle, right? So that's why we actually had a strategy in our philanthropy as well. We worked all the way from primary, middle school, high school, and then college, and then we even supported Indian School of Business, where best of the best MBA students are being created, right? So the thought process behind that is At the basic level, it's Akshay Patra that provides the midday meal program. And then we have this one school at a time where we go and rebuild dilapidated schools where school buildings are completely like broken. And we go and rebuild these schools. So we're almost like at 100 schools now across India. And then we also have introduced this whole digital education for the students, so which is touching close to almost 500,000 students. So that covers the basic at the grassroots level, starting from basic first grade to middle school to high school, and then coming to UVCE is the professional degree. And then we supported Indian School of Business mainly because when all these graduates come out, you need leaders who create jobs.
Yes, yes, that's very important.
That was the thought process of why we chose education end to end, all the way from primary school education to an MBA.
Wow,
That was the thought process.
that's very nice. And UVCE Foundation. What was your role? And recently we have this UVC autonomy as well. What was your role in making UVC autonomous?
So we, as part of the UVC Foundation, thanks to my colleagues, both in US and India, Rajiv Chamraj, Ram Vasantram, and over here, Alice Abraham and Madhav, right? We all essentially were fighting since, I would say, 2013 is when we did a UVC reunion. So almost 2,500 people came, and we held this first UVC reunion at the Palace grounds. And as part of that, we actually wrote with the help of Dr. Atre, Dr. Srinivasan, right, who are the Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan award winners, and Rodam Narasimha, Padma Vibhushan, right, all from UVC, by the way, very, very proud of. And they all contributed to this Vision UVC because they all went to IISc or IITs and all of that.
Yeah.
And we sort of came up with this Vision UVC where you want to structure the college to become autonomous with its own director who will have the complete uh, autonomy to make both the academic decisions as well as financial decisions. So we kept on pitching even after the ministry was changing, right? After elections, it was Congress at one point of time, then it was BJP at another point of time, then again it became Congress, and again it became BJP. So at one point of time, we were fortunate that when we had this UVC scholarship program, we invited Mr. Ashwat Narayan, who was the higher education minister,
Yeah.
to become the chief guest of our program. And he was so inspired by the work that we are doing and the college. He said, hey, this is a college that started by Sir M. Visheshwaraya. We have to do something for this. And he kicked off this committee, right, headed by Professor Sadgopan, who built Triple IT out of Bangalore, and a bunch of us on this committee who worked day and night, actually. I mean, almost every day. I was in California. I used to dial into these meetings at 5:30 a.m. my time, and all these rest of the folks, right, very methodically they execute, and they had the knowledge. Like Muthuraman was very closely associated with IIT Madras and IIT Kharagpur.
Yeah.
Sadgopan was this one, and bunch of others as well. So we all contributed, and we created this UVC Act. And this UVC Act, after going through several iterations, eventually it became a law, and which is what we are trying to implement at this point of time. So we believe that UVC, given the fact that it is one of the unique institutions which focuses on undergrad and masters, unlike IISc, which primarily focuses on research, And we are in the heart of Bangalore, which is
Yes.
the heart of the Silicon Valley of India, where there are so many tech companies. We believe if we execute this well over the next 10 years, we could become a center force of technology innovation from a practical point of view, right? Because these are engineers who can create companies, who can solve problems, and they would have worked very closely with many of the institutions across Bangalore. So, if our vision is right, and if we execute this well, UVC as an autonomous institution can play a major role in the startup innovation hub of Bangalore and India.
Yes, yes, definitely.
That's why
UVC is in
I'm
such a
actually
prominent
I'm
place.
very excited to see people like you starting this whole entrepreneurship cell and taking a lot of initiatives and pushing the students, pushing alumni, pushing other entrepreneurs, all of these things, right? How you persuaded me to come and do this class at UVC. I'm actually very hopeful right now that UVC has a bright future.
It definitely has, sir. And we as students, we believe that we have a sense of duty. In our 4 years, we have to bring it to a better shape. That's the spirit of us.
In fact, that is very essential.
We have a in-house placement office completely run by students. We have a Marvel makerspace completely run by students. Most of the big initiatives in UC, students want to take it and they want to run it.
In fact, this placement
That's
center was done by UVC Foundation.
foundation. Yeah.
We did that. We did the computer lab, and we have done the Water Institute in civil engineering. There's so many initiatives that we have done, and you know, you want uh, awesome students who are very energetic in turning UVC to the next level, and you also want staff to be equally motivated as well.
That's really important.
That's very important.
Because students come and go, but staff stay.
Exactly.
They are the
Exactly.
face of the institution.
Exactly.
So, what are your hopes for the future of UVC in the coming 10 years?
So I'm really hoping that with this new director who's going to come on board, work very closely with the new director to do a couple of transformational things. Right, one is on the academic side, because I think the curriculum, the subjects, and all of these things must be aligned to the industry as well as to where some of the trends are.
Yes.
So, which requires some sort of a constant change. And it doesn't have to be core subjects that change, right? We can have elective subjects that students will have the option to take these subjects. And for that, we need to figure out from an academic perspective how do we engineer these things? How do we design these things so that it fits into the college curriculum for the degree that the student gets, and at the same time, student is also exposed to subject matter that is of interest. So, like a multidisciplinary, because these days every subject that you take in the market, every subject requires computer science.
Yes.
Computer science is more like an English language now,
Yes. Very much.
right? Whether you do civil engineering, whether you do mechanical engineering, whether you do aeronautics engineering, whether you do right anything, you need computer science. The same thing is happening now with artificial intelligence coming into play. Artificial intelligence is not just a computer science thing. It is something that you can apply to any problem, any problem.
Yeah.
So, how do we integrate all these uh, foundational subjects into the different curriculums? So, that really requires multidisciplinary thinking,
Yes.
right? So, that's one part of it. The second part is elevating the overall strength of the institute, right? Because you want an institute to have certain size, and that helps a lot, to a great extent. And how do we increase the capacity? That means how do we increase the infrastructure in the college? So that's the second thing. So then the third is, how do we continuously grow the labs, right, to be aligned with the trends in the industry, and building relationship with the industries, science and technology and all of those things, right? How do you bring alignment into the college? So it's a 360-degree growth that we need to do, and it's not going to be easy. But I think with a dynamic director who will come on board, hopefully in the next couple of months, uh, you see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes. We are really excited because like closer to a decade's work of effort,
Correct.
it's floating now.
Correct.
And we as students, we are here at the right time.
Correct.
So we want to be a part of this journey as well.
Correct.
And with this, we will close our episode.
Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to working with you even more.
Your contributions to our college, and we know that you are one of the crowning jewels of UVC. Thank you very much for that.
I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Okay. Great.